spring break savings, airline news, and Airbnb's pushback against regulations are just some of the topics we're going to be discussing in today's episode. Now, I want to go ahead and dive into what Airbnb is currently doing in terms of their pushback in regulations. But I'm going to get into a couple of other things regarding regulation. But before I do that, just take a quick peek of this. Start with today's episode with regulation and some of the stuff that Airbnb is doing to push back on regulation. Now, right now, the latest in terms of, or the latest country or city that has dived into either restricting or taxing short-term rentals is going to be Edinburgh, Scotland. So Edinburgh, Scotland is going to be the first city or town in Scotland to implement a tourist tax. Now, they're charging a 5% levy on pre-vet costs for all accommodations. Now, it's not short-term rentals in Edinburgh. They're also talking about doing it for hotels, bed and breakfasts, and short-term rentals. So it's not just singling out short-term rentals, but Edinburgh is jumping on the bandwagon and being one of the first towns in Scotland to start taxing tourists. As I talked about in previous episode, there's been this big push against over-tourism. And for some reason, tourists and short-term rental operators are being signaled out as part of, if not the problem, in that a lot of these cities are facing. Now, I'm going to get on my bandwagon here. I'm going to get on my soapbox here. And those that follow the channel and seen me talk or been on this specific STR News episodes, you heard me say this multiple times, and I'm going to say it again because I think it's important to understand. We're in 2025, people. And in 2025, there's really very little need to add any type of regulation to any industry, because I firmly believe that most countries, most cities, especially major cities, are over-regulated and overtaxed. And none of those regulations and none of those taxes have helped or solved the problems that many of these legislative bodies, sorry about that, have been trying, or what they're trying to fix hasn't been helped by I don't know why I can't say this word, but legislation, okay? So that's my soapbox, and the reason I'm saying it is because, man, we as the people, especially if you're in the US, stop giving up your rights for an illusion of, let's say, safety, for an illusion of this is going to fix A, because 99% of the time it doesn't fix it. All it does is take away more of your rights, and all it does is it makes everything much more expensive. And if you're sitting there saying, I don't really think that's true, Fernando, and just look at major cities in the US, New York, Chicago, anywhere in California, it is super expensive. I'm going to even include Miami now. It is super expensive, very difficult to operate there because of legislation and because of all these restrictions that are placed on businesses that really don't help the common man because it makes everything super expensive. Anyway, let me get off my soapbox. Let me just talk about what Airbnb is doing. So Airbnb or the corporation of Airbnb, they have laid out a vision for fair regulation, particularly, and they started this and they're really focused in the country of Spain. If you follow the channel, you know that Spain has been cracking down on not just short-term rental, but in tourism in general. Barcelona is the main corporate or the main driver of all these regulations and all these issues with tourists and or short-term rentals. But you're also seeing in Madrid, I talked about in last week's STR News that Alicante just did some restrictions and did a moratorium on new licenses. We talked about Paris, Rome, etc. But Airbnb is doing what they did in New York City. Again, if you're familiar with the channel, you heard me talk about this multiple episodes in the past, and that is when New York City placed those heavy restrictions, which in essence were a ban on short-term rentals. Airbnb was smart, and they said, okay, we're going to abide by that. But they decided to start collecting data and to see if this ban and this restriction was actually going to help in the city's crisis in terms of housing and the cost of housing in New York City. Where it turns out it didn't help. In fact, it turned out that it made everything more expensive. Even hotels became more expensive. The housing crisis is still there. So the issue wasn't short-term rentals. Hence why now the new commission there is trying to rewrite the story, and they're trying to go ahead and team up with Airbnb to create some reasonable, fair regulation. Now, when I say reasonable and fair, I'm talking particularly about not just the tourism industry, but also the locals there, right? Because we do understand that, for example, in Barcelona, things are super, super expensive, and they became super expensive for many reasons, not one particular reason, but for many reasons. But we understand that there is an issue. So we need to all come together and try to resolve that problem, not through legislation, right? Because I don't think legislation is ever going to help, but to figure out how we can accommodate that. Now, us as short-term rental operators and travel advisors, it behooves us to participate in this discussion and to help alleviate some of these problems, especially during peak season. That's why, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit in this episode, that's why we're pushing and promoting our alternative places to visit so that we can alleviate some of the problems that are happening in these over-visited or over-tourism areas. Now, a couple of things sticking with Airbnb. Now, they also helped and teamed up with California in response to price gouging. Now, I don't really know how I feel about this yet because I haven't really dived into it. But they implemented that if you're a short-term rental operator advertising on Airbnb, that you must follow California law in terms of price gouging, meaning you can't increase your prices by more than 10%. Now, where did they get that number from? I have no idea. But because I'm not well versed on this emergency order that California implemented in due to the fires in California, I don't really have an opinion yet, and I don't really know where I stand on that. I do know that, and I've always said this, that during crisis, it's really not an appropriate time for you to try to take advantage of the situation from a financial standpoint. I mean, if you follow the channel again, you know that during hurricanes, we, on our end, if we have an available property, we don't raise the prices. In fact, we reduce the prices to help those that are displaced. Now, I understand that I'm just one person, but I would hope that many in the industry follow suit so that we don't have dumb regulations like this and have legislators put a stupid number out like 10%. You know, like I don't know where they got that number from, but nonetheless, we don't want that. Let's take care of ourselves and take care of the people that we are trying to serve. Going back to Spain. Now, this is big, especially if you're considering or thinking about investing in Spain, or considering or thinking about buying property in Spain. Now, Spain, or the government of Spain, is considering raising taxes, not just on short-term rentals, which they already did, but they're considering on raising taxes on foreign entities looking to buy real estate in Spain. And they're talking about a crazy number, like 100% tax on people buying properties in Spain that are not Spain, either citizens or residents. Now, again, if you're looking, that's something you really need to consider if you're looking to buy in Spain. Now, I'm a big fan of Spain, the country. It's a beautiful place. I love the people. I love visiting there. Can't stand the government. Can't stand their socialist, leaning to communist rule there. But that's their business. But I'm here to tell you that really stay on top of what they're doing in terms of their taxes, because it's a little crazy. Now, I'm going to get into spring break travel hacks, but before I do, watch this. My luxury Airbnb isn't getting booked. Even though my property is in perfect condition, has all the best amenities, and I always respond quickly to all the inquiries, my occupancy rate doesn't go higher than 20 and 30%. That's the story that I hear all the time from short-term rental operators. But don't stress, because that's what we're here for. When you partner with us, you do not have to worry about anything. We will handle it all. We'll make sure that we give you the correct and proper marketing strategy so that you can reach that 80, 90% occupancy rate that most of us desire. You heard that right. When you partner with us, you don't have to worry about a thing, and we'll make sure that you reach that occupancy rate that you so desire. Just DM me the word partner. All right, guys, that's a quick promo for those of you that are short-term rental operators, those of you that are looking to invest in short-term rentals, or those of you that are currently operating and need help operating your short-term rental. Give us a call. I would love to partner up with you guys, help you optimize and help you really maximize your short-term rental and or your investment. We fully understand, especially 2024 was a difficult year for many of you, and mainly because I firmly believe you didn't have the proper strategies in place, because if you follow us, you know that we did fairly well, not as good as years past, but I don't think anybody did as good as the anomaly years of 2021 and 2022. But again, if you're in the industry and you're looking for some help, give us a call. Now, let's dive right into spring break. Spring break is coming up, and some of you guys, if not a lot of you guys, want to plan a trip in spring break. Now, I'm going to give you with some travel hacks and some budget-friendly destinations that you can consider if you're looking for an affordable yet an unforgettable getaway destination. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to give you a few that are super common, and I'm going to give you some that are not common. Now, as I talked about, in the past, I want you to try to steer away from areas that you probably already visited, like New York City, like Chicago, like LA, in overseas, like Madrid, like Barcelona. Stay away from those areas. If you've been there already, right? Start to explore new places. And I'm going to give you some options right now. So some true areas in which you can travel to in spring break that's going to be affordable. I'm going to give you some that are really affordable, but are going to be affordable and are true tested, phenomenal places. Are places like Punta Cana in the Caribbean, which is in the DR. In South Florida, places like Naples, Fort Myers, Tampa, anywhere in Broward County, Palm Beach County, which includes Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, right? Those places are phenomenal areas to visit during spring break. You get great weather. And if you call us and help us plan your trip, I guarantee you're going to save a lot of money. Now, I'm going to give, and when, speaking of money, I'm going to give you some areas or some other destination, especially for those of you that are a little bit more adventurous and really want to explore new things. I'm going to give you some locations that I highly recommend that you visit that are fairly cheap. And I'll actually give you some numbers. So those of you that have to go to Italy, there are small towns in Italy. And during March, it's actually good ski weather if you want to go there, which is in the mountains of Italy. Now, I should have learned how to pronounce this, and I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong, but I'll spell it so you can know the town. It's Bardonesia. So it's Bardonecccia. For those that can pronounce that, please send me a DM or voicemail and tell me how to pronounce that town. Now, it's just beautiful. And when I say beautiful, it's a gorgeous ski resort area. In fact, let me share my screen so you can just see the picture of this place, and you'll see how it's spelled. Give me one quick second to share my screen. Now, I'm not going to show you all of these destinations because we're going to go kind of quick. But look at this beautiful freaking town in Italy. Now, the great part about this area is the cost, right? You're looking, for example, the average coffee price there is $1.50. The average dinner, evening meal, is only 15 euros, and a beer is $2.50. Now, compare that, right, to places like New York City, like Chicago, like Paris, like Madrid. It's going to be much more than this, right? So that's one location in Italy that I recommend. Here's another beautiful location in Lithuania. This town, extremely gorgeous. One of the reasons why I like this place, now it's a little bit more expensive than Italy, but the weather is a little bit better. And if you don't want to ski, then this is an option. But let me go. Laos is one that I highly, 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 highly recommend. Look at how cheap it is. Coffee, it's $1. It's really less than $1 in some places. A meal, and when I say dollars, I mean euros. A meal, it's €5. A beer is $2. The dollar goes a long way in Laos. And if you've never been to Southeast Asia, you really need to go here because they have really, and I say in the last 7 years to 10 years, their advancement has been tremendous. Better roads, better accommodations, just a cool place. Now, I didn't mention this, and I forgot to mention because I think it's extremely important, especially now because the dollar is super strong. And those that follow the channel know I'm a big fan of this. Is one of the major places that I highly recommend is going to be Colombia. Right now, the dollar is super strong, and you can spend very, very little on food, drinks, accommodations. And again, if you team up with us, we're going to get you a driver, a guide for anywhere you want to go, give you some of the best off the beat areas to visit and get a true cultural experience in Colombia. If you're looking for a spot to travel for spring break, highly recommend you choose Colombia. It's a short flight too. It's not like going to Southeast Asia or going to Europe. It's a very short flight from the US. And if you, again, partner with us, I can get you flights leaving out of Miami or Fort Lauderdale for under $200 round trip. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Let's go quickly over these because I have a lot to cover. Malaysia, this is another town in Asia that I recommend. Again, a meal, $6, beer, $3, coffee's $2.50, but again, you can find it a little bit better. Czech Republic. Now, this is a beautiful place. and the place that a lot of people won't ever think about going, but I'm here to tell you that you should go. If you're looking for an Eastern European culture experience and see some beautiful towns. Now, if you're the party type, not the place to go. Although they do have some nice bars and nightclubs, but it's not for that. But highly recommend you visit this place. $11 for a meal, $1.50 for a beer, coffee's under $2. Great places that you can go to Prague. Czech Republic is a cool place to visit. Now, a place that is not as cheap, but is still very inexpensive, is Tokyo, Japan. And I haven't been to Tokyo, Japan in a very long time, but when you talk about trending places to visit, Tokyo is one of the places that is, or Japan in general, it's one of the places that's trending. I just had a good friend of mine, Mike Elkins. If you're looking for a labor attorney, he's the guy. But nonetheless, he did a solo trip there. And I believe he spent like 3 to 4 weeks in Japan, visit the entire country, and he raved about it. So, again, I personally haven't been there in a very long time. I was in Japan in the late 80s, early 90s. So I can't speak personally about it, but when it comes to a place that's trending, this is one of them. Now, here's a meal: $11.50, beer $3, coffee $2.50. Now, this is an area in Spain. Again, stay out of Barcelona, stay out of Madrid. You can spend a day or two there. Visit that place during spring break. But go to off-the-wall places. This location here in Spain, again, beautiful city, highly recommended, super inexpensive, especially when it comes to accommodations. Meals €15, beers $2.50, coffee's $1. Great place to visit. Turkey, another destination that I was super surprised about. And if you look at the pictures, this particular picture, you'll see how beautiful it is. Wasn't a place that I ever thought about visiting, but again, pleasantly surprised, and all because I was willing to do something different. Highly recommend that you pick any of these places. I'm going to go really quick through here. Lisbon, Gambia, you're looking at Bali. Bali's pretty famous already. Belize, another great place to visit. Jamaica. These are all great places to visit during spring break. But let's move. Let me stop sharing this. Let's move on to the next topic. Let me go back to my notes because I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So now let's talk about some booking strategies on saving money when booking. Now, the first thing and I've always said this, and if you follow the channel, you're going to hear me say this, is that you need to plan, right? Failure to plan or if you don't plan, you plan to fail, is what I meant to say. So pre-plan. The best time to really plan is 4 months out. Now for spring break, we're not really 4 months out. We're closer to 3 to 3.5 months out for spring break, but you still can take advantage of advanced booking for deals and availability. Now the big one is availability, because especially if you're going to some hot spots like South Florida, availability is going to, the more you wait, the tighter is going to be, the less available properties or accommodations are going to be there, and everything skyrockets. Everything starts to go up when you wait for the last minute. Now, a couple of hacks here is when looking to travel, try to travel midweek, right? I say Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, best time to travel, and then try to look for flights either early morning or late evening, because you will definitely get better pricing for those. So I'm going to give you an example. to go to Medellin, Colombia, which is one of the places I highly recommend you go to. If you travel in the evening time, like late evening or early morning, right? Because I believe they have like a 2 a.m. flight. And I know some of you guys are going to say, well, that sucks. But you can get a Spirit flight for during that 2 a.m. flight, or even JetBlue, I believe, for really, really like the cheapest I saw it was $88 on Spirit. But that's if you're a Saver member. But if not, it's like $110. And then on JetBlue, it's like $120 to fly on that 2 a.m. flight. But you can also there's an earlier flight, and you can also fly, let's say, you don't mind a quick layover, fly to Bogota. There's tons of very cheap flights on different airlines in Bogota. And then go from Bogota to Medellin on a domestic flight, either on Latam, Avianca. You can get cheap flights there for like under $80 to fly to Medellin. And then you can even spend a day in Bogota and visit Bogota, another place I highly recommend. So those are kind of the travel hacks for flights. There's a couple of OTAs that I recommend you get on, and OTAs are online travel agency or platforms that you can go on there and set a route, and then put on fare alerts, and it'll tell you what's called, one of those OTAs is called fare drop, and it'll alert you when that fare drops, and then you can decide when you want to buy it, or you can continue to gamble and wait to see if it fluctuates. I've done that in the past, but I've done that when I had plenty of time to travel. So if for example, not for spring break, because it's really not going to help you for spring break, but if you're looking to travel in the summer, you're looking to travel in the fall, then go on those OTAs that will give you fare alerts. Put on your route or your destination, and then they'll start sending you notices when those flights start to drop, and then you can get a good deal there. Now, in terms of fares as well, and or accommodations or anything else related to travel, the biggest savings comes from bundling, right? It's what we refer to as bundling services. Now, the best way to do that is through a travel advisor. Now, this is me pitching my company, but you don't have to use us. I highly recommend you use any well-respected travel advisor, because they're going to get you the best deals. They're going to bundle your flight, your car rental, your accommodations, your excursions, your tours. They can bundle all of them, and you can really save sometimes up to 50% when you do that. Now, if you are a DIY person, then you can do it yourself, but it's going to require some homework on your part by going into these OTAs like Expedia, right? Expedia will help you bundle all those. Now, and you will get some great savings if you book a flight, a car, and your accommodation through Expedia. And I'm just giving you one OTA as an example. There's others that do it, but there's a catch when you do it as a DIY person when on these OTAs. And the catch is that, for example, with Expedia, they're only going to present you companies and, for example, flights and accommodations that they partner with. So they're going to exclude those other options that they don't partner with, and sometimes those other options are cheaper. Again, you will get a savings if you bundle and you use Expedia, but you will get a greater savings if you decide to do it with a travel advisor. So that's another very good hack to get you to save some money on your travels for spring break, but anytime you can use that tip. Now, as it relates to just accommodations, there's two hacks that I always give to find or get discounts on accommodations. Hack A is going to be to use an OTA platform like Airbnb, find the property that you want to stay in, and then do a Google search to try to identify or locate either the property manager or the owner, so that you can deal with them direct, so you can save the OTA fees. And oftentimes, depending on whatever negotiation you can have with the owner or the property management, a lot of times they're willing to work with you and give you discounts depending on your flexibility and your length of stay, right? So I'm going to give you an example. Anyone that reaches out to me, I will 100% give you a discount on any of the 3,200 properties that we have under management. So, and specifically, where you get the greater discounts is if you book a property through us, let's say, for example, South Florida, Colombia, which is our two main hubs where we have the biggest footprint, we can give you great discounts. And if you reach out to me directly, not only will I plan your trip for you, but I will ensure that you will get the best deal available, or I will give you the difference if you find it cheaper someplace else. So that's that. Those are big savings, and that's a very good travel hack. Before I got into the travel side, and I did a lot of traveling, that's how I saved hundreds, if not thousands of dollars by reaching out to the host directly and booking the property directly with the host so I can avoid some of the fees that are associated with these OTAs. Next, now this is an old travel hack that has reemerged in the industry and is becoming popular again, and that is house swapping. So there's platforms out there, and I'm just going to name one because it's probably the biggest and the most common, which is called Home Exchange. Now, they allow travelers to swap homes. There was an old Christmas movie that made this type of home swapping very popular, and Cameron Diaz was on it. Jack Black was on it. I forget the name of the movie, but it was a very good movie. And they two people swapped homes. But that's the concept here. Now, the doing so technically isn't free. Now, when you go on there, it says you get a free accommodations. It's not really free because you have to be a member of these platforms. And for example, Home Exchange, the membership is $175 a year. But with that $175, you have the ability to house swap with other people in other destinations. Great hack that'll save you money. Now, and again, it's become popular again, so now you have a better variety. But you have to be willing or adventurous to explore this option because it's not; these homes are really not designed for like true accommodations because you're going to be going and staying in somebody's house, and that person is going to be staying in your house. So there's some steps you have to take. If you're interested, look into it. Like I said, I don't have any affiliation with Home Exchange, but it's one of the companies that I am familiar with, so that you can look at that. The next, in terms of accommodation, again, a lot of people have shied away from this, but it's become very popular, especially in the digital nomad community, and that is things like hostels, guest house, and what's referred to as the share economy platforms like couch surfing. Again, it's really what Airbnb was meant to be in the very beginning when Airbnb first started. It was really just renting out a room, or back then it was a air mattress, right? Just rent out an air mattress so you can crash in somebody else's house. Well, companies have taken that concept and have ran with it like couch surfing, but it's strictly for renting out a couch or an air mattress, or in the case of a hostel, renting out a bed. And it's communal living, right? You're going to be living with other people, so you have to be okay with that. But it's super inexpensive. And there's some hostels, like for example, we went to a couple of places in Europe. I'm trying to remember the town that I went to. It was in Italy, and I believe it was where was that at? I can't remember that, but it was. I think it was near the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It was a small town, and there was a hostel there, and we went inside to get something to eat and just check out the accommodations and to leave our bags because they had a store, store your bag type of business, so you can leave there and do your walk and do whatever. But that hostel was beautiful. It was really, really nice. Each room had 4 bunk beds or 2 sets of bunk beds, so 4 people per room. But showers were nice. Restaurant was nice. They had a great coffee area, great breakfast, and super inexpensive. It was like €8 a night. You can't beat that, right? Next, and this is not really a travel hack. Many people use it. Some people don't really use it correctly. Is utilizing rewards and points on your credit cards. Now, I don't really recommend this to a lot of people because a lot of people, A, they don't know how to use it, and B, oftentimes they get themselves in trouble with this. But we actually use this a lot. Well, me personally use this a lot. For example, we have a business travel card, and all of our expenses are placed on that travel card. And as a multi-million-dollar business that has $1 million in expenses, we rack up a lot of points, and we convert these points for business class tickets, accommodations, rental cars, and it's a big savings. And most households spend money anyway. If you pay your light bill, you pay your grocery bills with a reward card that gives you points. And again, do your homework to figure out which card best suits you. Then I recommend this. But if you're that type of person that doesn't know how to manage money, this can get out of control. It could set you back more than it could help you. So, be cautious of that. Anyway, now let's move on to the latest airline news, because here I got one very interesting news, and I did an Instagram update on this. And by the way, those of you guys that are watching or are still here, if you have any questions, comments, list them below. Lorena will pass them on to me, or if she can, she'll answer them herself. But if you have any comments or questions, especially on travel deals, locations to go ahead and ask, and I'll try to address it now. If not, I'll address it later. But here's an interesting news related to travel. Now, and again, like I mentioned, I did an I don't know if I did it on Instagram. I think I did it on Instagram, but I for sure I did it on my threads. And that is Spirit Airline has recently updated their what's called a contract to carriage, right? If you're not aware or you don't know, when you purchase an airline ticket, that purchase is an actual contract between you and the airline. And within that contract, the airline has a code of conduct and a set of rules that you must follow, or you violate that contract. Well, they recently updated that, and what they did was they specified some of their rules in greater detail. So, for example, the big one for me, and I want you to comment and tell me how you feel about this, is the following. They have stated in their contract of carriage that they have the discretion to not allow you to board if you're not following a specific dress code. So, for example, can't be barefoot. You can't board barefoot. You have to have shoes on. You can't have obscene clothing or anything that you wear that is obscene. So nothing with foul language or nothing that they determine to be obscene, right? In terms of clothes wear. The big one, and they specifically wrote this out, is sheer clothing. Now, I didn't know what that was, so I had to look it up. And it's a big fashion statement, particularly with women. And after I read it, I'm like, yeah, I've seen that all day long in South Beach, in Fort Lauderdale, I'm in the airport, is when you wear see-through clothing. It's a no-no for Spirit Airlines, right? They're not going to let you board if you wear that. Uh, the next one is tattoos. They actually wrote on there an obscene tattoo can prohibit you from boarding a flight, right? Again, it's up to their discretion. But the issue that I have is who determines that? What are the criteria there? It's not defined there. It is 100% left up to the airline, meaning the flight attendant or the captain of the plane. And when I read this and I was doing my research for this, it already happened multiple times. And they had some, if you go on Twitter, you'll find some people that got kicked off for wearing sheer clothing. There was one guy, they refused to put shoes on. He got kicked off. So just be mindful of that. Now, the last thing in terms of airline news that I'm going to talk about is, because I've mentioned some of this stuff before, and I'm going to quickly go over, with the exception of the new flight routes that are available. But Boeing last year created a new Airbus, a smaller Airbus that's able to travel further and compete with the jumbo Airbuses, right? So what this has done is that it has allowed airlines, specifically airlines that do not travel international or long distance internationally, that allows them to get into the long distance game, right? Because the fuel economy is the same, and they have the ability to add new airports that normally don't accommodate these big jumbo flights. So what does that do for you? It opens up new travel destinations for those of you that want to be adventurous, like I've been preaching, and see new destinations. So there's been a lot of new ones. So I'm going to give you some now. There's many more, but these are just some new ones that have popped up. For example, United Airlines now has direct flights from Newark, Miami to places like Greenland, which Greenland has been in the news lately. And I'm sure the popularity and their Google's they've been trending on Google, mainly because the U.S. new President Trump wants to acquire Greenland. But anyways, you can get a direct flight there. You can get a direct flight now to Morocco. You can get a direct flight to Nuuk, N-U-U-K. I don't know where that is, but there's now direct flights there. Delta has new airline services from New York to a lot of small towns in Italy, Catalonia being one of them, Sicily. American Airlines and ITA Airlines also have new routes from Chicago to Italy, includes Rome, includes Milan. Here's a big one for me. Emirates now has daily flights leaving Miami to Bogota. Now, I'm a huge fan of Emirates. If you've never flown Emirates, highly recommend you do. It is a true customer service experience like no other. And if you can afford it, because it is a little bit more expensive than other airlines, if you can afford it and you can fly business class on Emirates, you'll never want to fly business class on any other airlines. But the key thing here is now they have daily flights from Miami to Bogota. For me, that's huge because I'll be taking advantage of that and I'll be flying to Bogota on Emirates. KLM now also has new routes from the west coast of the U.S., specifically San Diego, to Europe. One of the new destination hubs is Amsterdam. So keep an eye on these new routes because there's a lot of new ones coming up. There's more coming. The next thing in terms of routes is that a lot of airlines, Delta Airlines being one of them, that they're going to be resuming flights to the Middle East. Due to the conflicts, a lot of airlines stopped flying to the Middle East, Delta Airline being one of them. But now starting April 1st, they're going to start resuming flights to Tel Aviv and some areas in the Middle East. So if you're a Delta Airlines traveler and you've been waiting to go to the Middle East or to visit people in Tel Aviv or family members, etc., April 1st, you're going to have the opportunity to do so. Okay. The last thing I'll talk about airlines is that I anticipate, this is why I've been giving you all these travel hacks. I anticipate that in 2025, the cost to fly on an airline is going to continue to go up. Recently, the Delta CEO talked about how in 2023, they raised their prices by 12%. I'm sorry, not 2023, 2024. They raised their prices by 12%. They're looking, they don't know by how much, but they anticipate in 2025 to continue to do so because of two main reasons. One, there's a huge demand for travel. I talked about that before. Q4 of 2024 saw the highest number of travelers that we've seen in the US in decades. And 2025 Q1 is seeing an increase as well. So there's a huge demand. But the problem is that airlines are not able and have not been able to keep up with the demand. There's a huge staffing shortage, specifically with pilots that they're still trying to catch up to, and operational costs are still super high. Now, I said this as well. The one caveat that we're hoping happens that will alleviate some of this is the cost of fuel. If we can get fuel down, and President Trump has already, started this process of drilling, or like he says, drill, baby, right? We're hoping the price of gas shortly. It's not going to happen overnight. I don't know why people think that things that things are going to change one day to the next, but shortly, meaning by the summer when peak travel season happens, hopefully that will start to come down. See if I got anything else to cover. Okay, that's going to be all for news. The last thing I'm just going to go over is what we're doing. You follow me on Instagram. You saw that our construction started for our resort in Georgia. We had some unexpected snow hit us for the first time since 1993. Hit that area. It was a substantial amount of snow. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see some of the pictures. It was beautiful. But I kind of dropped the ball, and I'm a little upset with myself because when I woke up that morning and I decided to get on our e-bikes to see how they react to the snow and hit our trails. As I was hitting the trails, it was beautiful. It's a white trail, and you had all the green trees around it. That I told myself, when I get back, I'm gonna fly the drone so I can record these trails so you guys can see how the trails look with the snow. And I dropped the ball because I got back. I was so freaking cold, and I started to warm my hands and try to warm up my body that I completely forgot to take the drone out. And the next day, it warmed up again, and the snow melted. So it was very short-lived. But that's coming along. Follow me on Instagram, especially subscribe to YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, people. We're going to be putting out the entire process from start to finish. We started with the construction in our barn. We're doing that a barn aminium. We're doing the barn renovation, making it a living space. We already started that. I already started recording it from the start. We put in all the electrical, all the insulation, and we started with the drywall. I think today we'll finish with the drywall. But then we're going to take a quick break. Some of my material has not arrived. I'm not, as you can see, I'm not up there today. I'm not going back up there until probably the end of the month when the remainder of the supplies and equipment that I ordered is coming in. But again, follow the channel, subscribe to the channel. That's all I have for today. Those that are watching, thank you. I love you, and I'll see you on the next one.